I want to talk first about Tony Blain. Tony Blain is our newly elected council member for District 2 in Poway. Tony Blain is in big trouble. Tony Blain has been blowing up Poway. So I don't know if you're following in the news. It's gotten a lot of local news coverage from journalists at the Voice of San Diego, at the San Diego Union Tribune. It's been on television, local news. I just want to break down what's happening because I can give you probably better insight than what a lot of other people could share. What's happening here with Tony Blain in the city of Poway? What did he do wrong? And what does the future look like here? Okay, well, first of all, Tony Blain was elected in the November election last year to represent District 2 in Poway. You know, we've broken Poway up into 4 districts. So we have 5 people on our council, and 4 of them are council members, and then we have Mayor Vaus. And District 2 is sort of kind of North Poway. You know, it's like Green Valley, and it's the new farm, you know, where they're building that brand new development off of Espola. It's all the Bridlewood, like kind of around Poway High School. You know, roughly speaking, that's District 2. I think it might stretch a little bit south along the east side of Poway Road, maybe the east side of Espola Road, and probably include High Valley, I think, is part of District 2. So Tony Blain won that election in November. He defeated Jared Wilson, who was kind of the establishment pick, as well as Vanessa Springett, who was a local active leader for the Green Valley Civic Association. And Tony Blain won with a plurality. He got, I can't remember what the exact percentages was, but it was like 38%, 40%. It was something like that. You know, it wasn't a 51% majority. It was a plurality. He got the most votes, but more people voted against him and for him. But, you know, he won and he got elected. And during his campaign, we saw glimpses of what we're getting now. Tony Blain, of course, was very aggressive as a campaigner. In fact, I live just on the other side of the boundary of District 2. I live in District 3. And when I leave my immediate neighborhood, I'm driving through District 2, and I saw all kinds of Tony Blain signs and saw him active on Facebook. And when he first popped up on the scene, I was initially encouraged by Tony Blain because he was for term limits, and I think term limits are a good policy. But, you know, as this campaign started going on, you started realizing that Tony Blain is going to be a little bit like a bull in a china shop. I mean, he was threatening to fire some city leaders. I don't remember if it was the city manager or the city attorney. He was threatening to recall Peter DeHoff in District 3. In fact, before he was elected in November of 2024, you know, during October, right before the election, when you think he would be focusing on winning District 2, he was out in District 3 knocking on doors trying to build a campaign recall of Peter DeHoff, which was odd. Now, granted, he won the election in District 2, so I can't really criticize the strategy that much, but you normally would think that if you're not focusing on your immediate election, you might come up short. But he was a 3-way race, and it just all kind of worked out in his favor. So he gets up on city council. He was I think took the oath of office in mid-December, I think around the December 10th or 15th, kind of right in that zone. And we had a couple of other new faces. We had Jenny Maeda, who was representing District 4, who defeated incumbent Kalen Frank. And then, of course, we had, you know, Brian Pepin, who announced his resignation shortly after the November election. And his seat was unoccupied for a while. Now they've just made a replacement. They've used Chris Pikus has won that assignment. And then, of course, there's Peter DeHoff, who's been on council now for a couple of years. And then Mayor Vaus, who's been the mayor since 2014. And I think he won election on the city council in 2012, if I recall. So, you know, he's the longtime member up there on the board. So Tony Blain, you know, campaigned on this whole idea. We're not going to do any backroom deals. We're going to get rid of the corruption at City Hall in Poway. We're going to, go after some of these corrupt officials, some of these corrupt city leaders, and we're going to get rid of them. We're going to start, moving these guys out the door. And he was very aggressive about it. And, that kind of a message can resonate with a lot of voters, particularly voters that have been very unhappy with all the development that's going on in Poway, on Poway Road, on Espola Road, and other parts of the community. There's been a transformation in our city and the country with all these new townhomes and apartment buildings and, and the farm with all of its single family homes and duplexes. But this is indicative of what's going on all across the state. There's a housing shortage. There's a lot more building going on. But a lot of the folks in Poway, particularly the NIMBYs, don't want more construction. Or there's other people that just generally don't want more hassle, more traffic, et cetera. And there's been an uproar because Poway Road has been flipped on its ear. And so you would think, he's going in there saying, hey, we're going to get rid of these guys. We're going to get this guy out of office. We're going to kick this guy out. And again, I understand how that message resonates. So he gets up on the city council and right away he is making quid pro quo deals. And what was amazing is that he was doing the kind of backroom dealing that he was criticizing other people for doing when he was running. The only difference is that he was doing the dealing in public, but it was still the unethical sort of quid pro quo. I mean, there were cases where, where Tony Blain told Peter DeHoff, I'll, take down my recall effort of you. I will promote you for deputy mayor if you agree to do an election in District 1 to replace Brian Pepin. There was some of that, you do this for me, I do this for you. Okay, now, we all know that politicians do that. I mean, you would be naive not to think that sort of thing happens. But usually that's what they do in the backroom deals, right? I mean, he was doing it out in public. He was doing it in the council meetings. He was doing it on Poway City email. And this is apparently a violation of the law. And I don't know all the detail here, but it got to the point where people were frankly very angry about this. I know the city attorney was fuming when Tony Blain was calling him out. And people were warning, they saw this coming, based on the way Tony Blain was campaigning. And sure enough, he's in office and like a bull in a china shop, he's kind of creating a lot of chaos. And it got to the point that it was so bad that they had to censure him. What's a censure? It's kind of like a slap on the wrist. I think Mayor Vaus called it a public scolding in one of his interviews on the television news. It was a formal declaration that, hey, man, what you're doing ain't right. It ain't ethical. And it frankly might be illegal. So it was incredible how this all built up. There was a lot of effort to kind of get organized around for this censure. And then I watched the meeting. What was it, last week? The meeting where they made the decision on the appointment of the District 1 replacement for Brian Pepin. There was also the enaction of the censure on Tony Blain. And where was Tony Blain? Didn't show up at the council meeting. And I thought, man, this is weak sauce. This is not a good look. If you believe in what you say, if you believe your campaign promises were righteous and moral and virtuous, and you're being attacked by other people, you have to go in and defend yourself and fight back. And he wasn't doing that. And I'm thinking, that's a weak sauce for a politician. That's a really bad look. And so that meeting, there were only 4 of them up on the dais. Is that how you say it? D-A-I-S, or is it dais? I always get that word mixed up. But at any rate, he wasn't even there. And it was like an empty chair. It was like Clint Eastwood at the GOP convention 25 years ago with the empty chair right there on stage. So what is going on with this guy? It's just surprising to me. Now, it is interesting because, I ran for office, 11 years ago, for school board. And, when you're running for office, it's only natural to sort of have that fantasy of, if I'm elected, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say this and say that and call this out. And new council members should do that. I mean, if you are elected and you're successful, you're representing the people, you have a new voice, a voice that resonated with the people, and you owe it to yourself and the people that voted for you to fight for the agenda that you campaigned on. Okay, which is great. But there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. And what we're dealing with now is Tony Blain has a way that he wants to do it differently, and as a result, he is just blowing up bridges, blowing up Poway as he goes along through this process. So I don't know when the next council meeting is. It might be in another week or so, and we'll find out if Tony Blain actually shows up. I'm just interested to hear what his response to all of this is going to be. And already people in the community are upset about this. I mean, you should have seen some of the speakers that came up at the meeting, speakers that live in Tony Blain's district too, that wanted to talk to him, and then he refuses to talk to people on social media or on email, but he says he'll meet you for a cup of coffee. And you're like, wait a minute. I can't have a conversation by email or by phone, even with my council member, my representative. And then this woman said that she wanted to schedule a sit-down meeting with him and asked him, can I record our conversation? And Tony Blain said no. And again, another bad look, and this particular person in front of city council was, having all sorts of personal attacks on Tony, questioning his mental health on all of this. And so it's kind of like the end does not justify the means, which I think is a really important, principle that at least I follow, is that you may have righteous ideas on what you want to implement, but there's a way to go about it. Not only staying within the letter of the law, but more importantly, not being an a-hole as you go through the process, not demonstrating the hypocrisy of you campaigning against backroom deals. And now you're doing the deals, you're doing the kind of unethical behavior that you were angry about. So this to me is something. And by the way, he has already announced that he's running for mayor of Poway in 2026, like in 2 years. So this is remarkable. I was in one of the Facebook groups, and we have a bunch of different Facebook groups here in Poway, and one of the people there posted, he goes, you should go read his reviews. And he's a doctor. So and there's other kind of health websites that are sort of like the Yelp for doctors. He got a lot of negative reviews out there as well. So we're going to see more here about Tony Blain. Is there going to be an effort to recall him? There's a lot of people that are demanding that he resign. Is he going to fight through this? Is he going to stick to his original campaign principles? Is he going to show up for the next Poway City Council meeting? So, to me, it's a bad look, and it's, maybe it's a popular trend now with Donald Trump, going out there saying what's unfiltered, saying what's on your mind, going to do this, going to do that. And I think some of that is sort of that energy, some of that strategy is channeling through Tony Blain. But, we've been a city here in Poway since 1980. I think this is the first time a city council member has ever been censured, has ever been publicly scolded by the other city council members and the mayor. So keep an eye on this. It's just funny. It's just that Poway, we're like a nice little suburban neighborhood, and it's a great place to raise a family. You got pretty good schools here, good school district, parks, walking trails. A lot of really nice people in town. But we seem to get quite a bit of drama. If it's not the $1 billion bond with our school board, it's the water crisis and the boil water ordinance. It's, there was a recall on Mayor Vaus a couple of years back. There's the corruption of John Collins when he was the Poway school board superintendent. And oh my gosh, we had the Chabad shooting here in Poway, which was tragic. So I wish Poway would be in the news, maybe for some more positive things rather than some negative things. So tell me what you think of Tony Blain, council member, District 2 here in Poway. Good guy, bad guy, fighting for a righteous cause, or, going about it unethically, immorally, maybe even illegally. Tell me what you think about Tony Blain. Drop your hot take in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in the conversation. I try to make this a community forum, and so if you're on the live stream, that's your way to get involved.